Hi everyone, welcome back to Crochet Rocks. My name's Tracy and in this tutorial I'm going to show you how to make this rectangular box granny blanket. I was going to call it a square, but it's a rectangle, but you know what I mean. Now this is a modern sort of take on the granny stitch. It's got an alternate row here. So if you look, I have done this tutorial on a square and a hexagon before. The square is called rubies if you want to have a look at that. The hexagon is called emeralds, and it was done with quite bright, vibrant colours. And this alternate row here was done with a darker yarn, and it really sets off the colour scheme. But I wanted to make this in lovely pastel shades for a baby blanket, so my alternate rows are white. Now this yarn has a glitz to it. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to show you. Oh, there it is. But you can see there is a glitz in this yarn. It's very pretty, and I've got a mint green, a pink, a blue and a lilac and the white. I've got 2 balls of the white because I'm going to do an edging and I wanted to make sure I'd got enough, but I've got 100-gram scheme of all of my other colours, and I'm using a 4.5mm crochet hook because I wanted it to be nice and light and drapey for the spring and summer. This blanket is for a pram or stroller, but you can make it in any size that you wish. Just make sure you've got enough yarn for that project. And then also you can make it with a 4-weight yarn if you wanted to. Just make sure you use the corresponding crochet hook. In the UK we call that Aran. But I'll show you this yarn that I'm using. I won't show you each ball because you've seen the colours. It's just called Baby Sparkle. It's 100-gram double knitting yarn. It's very inexpensive, but it's lovely and soft. It's 95% acrylic and 5% metallic, and it's got a total length of 300 meters approximately. So it does have a machine washable instruction as well. But if you can't get this yarn, then you can use any equivalent yarn, 3-weight, DK weight. Now this one, it's lovely and soft, it's very inexpensive, and I just love the shimmer. So how do we start? We're going to start this with a slip knot. I'm just going to pause the video while I clear all these bits and pieces out the way, and I'll come straight back to you. Okay, so we're going to start off with a slip knot. You can make that in any way that you normally do. I was taught to make a circle, go around the back and put the yarn through it and just pull it, and you get yourself a nice little slip knot. And we're going to chain up 24. So for the beginner, I will just show you quickly how to do a chain. You yarn over and pull through the loop on your hook. So that's yarn over and pull through the loop, and that's as simple as that. Now that is just 4 for me, and they need a total of 24, so I'm going to pause the video and I will meet up with you once I've done my 24. Okay, so I've now got my chain, and how we're going to do this is by making a UK treble crochet in the 3rd chain from the hook. Now this loop doesn't count, that's on the hook. There's our 1st, 2nd, and this is our 3rd. So we're going to yarn over and we're going to go through 2 loops, yarn over and pull up a loop. So we now have 3 on our hook. We'll yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2, and we're going to do 2 more in that same chain, exactly the same as before, and another one. So to be our 4th one, because these 2 chain that we started with count as our 1st stitch. So there we are, that's our last stitch. And so if you look at them, we've got 3 and our 2 chain. So this is now our side. I'm going to chain 2, and because this is our corner, we're going to go into the very next stitch, and we're going to do 4 in that chain as well. So again, going through the 2 loops and just do another 4 in that stitch. Don't worry if it makes those stitches a little baggy, that's fine. So now we have made a corner. This is our side and we're going along this edge. So I'm going to chain loosely 2 and I'm going to count 4 stitches. We're going to go in the 4th one. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3 and into our 4th stitch, and we're going to do another cluster of 4. So we're going through the 2 loops again and we're going to do 4 more, and that's what we're going to do all the way along this chain. We're going to chain up, once we've done our 4, we're going to chain up 2, not tightly but loosely, and then we're going to count 4 and go into the next stitch and do another 4, and we're going to do that all the way along until we get to the last couple of stitches. So I'm going to finish this one and then I shall pause the video. I need to pull out a bit of yarn, sorry. So that's how it looks. We've got our corner and we've got our sides forming. So I'm going to pause the video and I will come back to you once I've got to the very end. Now I've made it all the way to the end and you will see that I have 1 stitch left. And just like we had at this end, I'm going to chain 2 and then I'm going to do another cluster of 4 in that very last stitch. I'm just going to pause the video one moment because I'm getting a phone call. Sorry about that, I got a call. And the stupid thing was my phone was on silent, but it managed to come through my tablet and it was actually quite important. So as I said, right, there's our last cluster of our 4 and we're making the opposite end. So I've done my 2 chain and I'm going to go in my last stitch through my 2 loops and I'm going to do my last 4. And I'm going to work over that end when I go back round the other side. This time we do need 4. The other end we only had 3 because we had the 2 chain. So now I've made my other corner. I'm going to do 2 chain just like we have here, and I'm going to go in the same stitch for this cluster here. So that's the next one. We've been in this one, we're going to go back into that one. It is a long stitch and it will make a gap, but that's fine. So I'm going to just make my cluster of 4 in this one, just as I had on the other side. We're now working back the other way along our chain. And we're going to go in each one of our shells that we've already been into. It's nice and easy to see where to go on this side. Move that tail out the way. And I've got my chain. I'm going to go into this stitch and do my 4. Don't worry about the baggy stitch. It does pull itself back. My 2 chain. Pull out some yarn and into this stitch here. If it helps, just hold on to that stitch there with your finger and it won't curl it around, and you'll be able to see. Again, just hold on to that if you have to, so stop it from curling round. As long as you don't end up with very baggy stitches, just got to pull out some yarn. It's pulling on something. There we are. And that's 1. Finish off our 4. Two chain. And we're back here. And what we've got to do now is slip stitch into the top No, we've got to go into this one, sorry. What am I talking about? There we are, nearly missed one. So we're going to go into our last one. Didn't think it looked right. So, oops, didn't finish it. So we've done our 4, 2 chain, that's better. And now we're going to slip stitch into the top of our 2 chain. So if you can't see it too easily because it's a little bit awkward to see, you just count 1, 2, 3, and there is the top. And we'll slip stitch into there. That's finished off our row. Now we're going to end that colour, so I'm just going to cut it off. If you want to do your joins however you normally do, that's fine. So now we've got something that looks like this, and we're going to join our white. So I'm just going to clear this out the way, bear with me once. Okay, so now our tail's over here, so I'm going to join my yarn over in this corner. I don't really want to work over more than one tail at a time. Now, you can join however you want, but I've found this is the easiest way for me. So I know there are 2 loops on my hook, but just make your join however you want. If you want to tie it on, that's perfectly fine. Just whichever join that you're happy with. I'll tie it on for this time, just to show you what we do. So I'm going to pull up my loop and do a chain. So now I'm ready to go. And what I'm going to do is in this stitch here, I'm going to insert my hook and pull up a loop, insert and pull through both. So I've made a UK double crochet, that's a US single. I'm going to chain 2, and now I'm going to do that again in the same stitch. So that's into the gap and pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. So that is going to be our corner. Now I'm going to chain 2, and I'm going nice and loosely. If you chain tightly, you'll need 3, but I'm going to go into this gap here and do another UK double, US single. Chain 2 and go along to the next one. And don't worry that if it pulls a little tight, you want that to pull these into a square so they don't fan out. So chain 2, not tight but not too baggy, and do that all the way along. Another 2, and we're going in every gap and just pulling them together. I've done it with 3, but I wasn't happy with the result. Now I'm back at the corner, so I've done 1, 2 chain, and we're going in again. We can get rid of those at the next round, so that's fine. So now we have to bridge this gap. So we're going to do 2 chain and go over here to our next one. If you wanted to do 3 chain there to get you round, that's fine. But we're just doing the same thing again because it's a corner. UK double, US single, chain 2, and into that corner again. So now we've made 2 little loops at each corner. That's what we're looking for, and a big gap in between. So we're going to chain 2 loosely and go into every gap again and do our UK double, US single until we get back along the other side. And that's what it's going to look like. Don't worry if it's pulled it slightly tight. We want it to pull it together a little bit, because otherwise it's too loose. Okay, so now we're back at the corner. So we've done 1, 2 chain, go back in, do it again. Now because this is quite a distance, we will do our 3, and now we're going to just slip stitch into our first, because there is our corner. We've got our first stitch, 2 chain, and our second. So we're just going to slip stitch into here. And we're going to end off. There we are. So now our next round is going to kind of pull that out a little bit more. So I'm going to go with blue. I might as well use the blue, it's nice and handy. So we're going to join it at the opposite end to where we've just ended off. So I've ended there, and so I'm going to join it at this corner. So here is my corner, there's my 2 stitches, and this is the in-between part. So just join that, and I normally join, because I'm going to do treble crochets, I will join it with a loop, and my first chain will be through both the tail as well as the working yarn, and then my next stitch, my next chain will just pull up. So now that will count as my first stitch. Now our corners are slightly different to the rest. For our corner, we're going to do the traditional granny square corner of 3, 2 chain and 3. Just like that. Oops, sorry about that. Only want to think, because I've had a few days off, that I was a beginner. This is ridiculous. So there we are. We're going to carry on. So there's our 3. Got 2 chain counts as 1. There's our 2. 2 chain, and I'm working over that tail as much as I can. So there's my 3rd. Now this is our first stitch. I'm not going to do any chain now. Just going to go and do 4 UK trebles, US double crochets into my first gap. That's as the corner, and as you can see, it pulls it nicely. I'm going to continue working over the tail. If it doesn't work out, I can always fish it out and sew it in, but the more you can work over, the better. And you can see it's pulling it normally, so there's stops it from being quite so puckered. And we're going to carry on exactly the same way with it. Just if I'm going too fast, of course, just pause the video and catch up with me. It's only that first row that I find does pull a little tight and pucker that way. The rest of them, because they've been pulled out, they're all fine. So now we're back at the corner. And so in our first corner, we're going to do what we did at the other end. 3 treble crochets, 2 chain. If I'm going too fast, then just pause the video and catch up with me. And another 3 for our corner. And then, of course, we've got our side. So we're going to do our side here. Okay, and then we're back at the corner here, and I'm going to work over the tail. Whoops. So I'm doing 3. Pull out some yarn. Oh. Pull it on the floor at the same time. Oh my goodness, I do apologise. I'd start again if I hadn't gone so far. Oh dear. Right, I will try better. I do apologise for that. Okay, this what I'm using is a gimbal. It's meant to stabilise. I don't think even it can stabilise against me today. So there we are, 2 chain. The rest of our corner working over the tail. And now we're going to go along the straight again, and I'm going to work over these tails as much as I can, because it's so much better to work over what you can and just sew in the rest. And this is exactly the same along this edge as before. It's pulling it out nicely, and once we get round you'll see that it's no longer puckering. That's it. I'm not going to work over that tail anymore. I'll just sew them in, sew the edges in. Okay, so we carry on in all of our spaces, going through those white chains, almost back. Oops, went through the wrong part. Almost there. Last one along this edge. Dropped it. And now we're back at the corner again. Again, no chain, but we're going to go in between our stitches. Two chain for the corner. And then into our edge. And we've made it all the way back. So now we're going to slip stitch into our top chain, and if you can't see where that is, you just count back, but it's easy to spot. So we're just going to slip stitch into there and end off our colour. And there we go. It's pulled it out. You can see it's not puckered or anything anymore, and we're going to just go ahead and attach the white and do exactly the same thing with the white as we did along that row. Just bear with me while I clear the blue away. Okay, so I'm going to attach at the opposite end. I always do that, and I'm going to go into the corner and attach my white, and I'll do it the same way as before for you, just by making a knot there and insert my hook and pull up a loop and do my first chain. So now I'm joined, and I'm going to do the corner in exactly the same way. So I'm going to make a UK double or US single. If you pull that tightly, it will just get rid of that little bump, and two chain and go back in and do another one. So that's made our corner. No, that's too tight. Get a bit tangled. Come out of there. That's the way I'm holding it, I think. So two chain, nice and loose, not baggy, not ridiculously baggy. And then we're going to go in between our stitches, our groups of 4, and do a UK double or US single. Again, two chain and go into this one. As you can see, two chain is sufficient. It's just that first row makes it look as if it's pulling it a little tight, but that's, we just need, if you do too many, then that first row splays out like this, which doesn't, it does a little bit still splay out, but I think we could probably get away with maybe two chain in between, but sometimes it did pull it just a little bit too tight. I found it worked a little better with the 3 in between. And we just keep going all the way around, just as before. Once we get to the corner, which we are now, we're going to make our corners by 1, 2 chain, and another one in the same space. And we'll work in that little ring there for our corner. And now the sides have grown. That's the corners, and we 1, 2, go into that side, move that out of the way, and make our other corner. If you wanted to try doing 4, 2 and maybe 1 chain and 4, then by all means do, but I found it looked nicer with the 3. It's just a few too many stitches if you try and do 4 on each side. We go all the way along this edge, and as before, if it starts to pull a little bit, don't worry, it soon pulls back out again. And now we're in the corner. Now the last 2 chain, and then we slip stitch into our first part of the corner, and again end off that colour, the white, and we're going to join, and it pulls a little bit and it does sometimes look like it's going in at the sides, but you just give it a little zhuzh, it's a technical term, and it's all fine. So now we're going to join the next colour, which I'm going to do pink. And then once I've shown you this round, I think that'll be it. You won't really need to show you any more rounds until you're kind of completed. So I'm going to insert my hook in between that last colour into that corner gap there. And I'm going to bring out my new colour. And again, I'm going to work over both the tail and my working yarn for my first stitch, drop the tail and finish off my 2 chain with the normal working yarn, and then I'm going to complete my corner, which is 2 more UK trebles, US doubles, 2 chain and 3 more in the corner. Just pull that towel out of the way because it's starting to get in the way. So there's our corner. Now we just carry on. I'm going to work over the tail and do 4 in the next gap, just as before. So it looks kind of difficult. I think the most difficult part is the initial rows, that the going the very first, these first rows here, that and working over tails. But there would be an awful lot of sewing if you didn't try and work over some of these tails. It's fine if you don't mind sewing, and I think at the moment, I don't know when you watch this, but at the precise moment that this is filmed, we're all on lockdown. We have plenty of time to sit and sew in tails. So there we are. I'm not going to work over that one anymore. I'm going to sew it back through itself and just carry on doing my little clusters of 4 all the way. Trying, though, carefully. It's ever so easy to grab that bottom row. My hook does that quite often because it is just running alongside it. But yeah, it's quite straightforward, nice and effective looking, and it's nice to do a rectangle rather than just a square or make squares and sew them together. But this does look nice if you use I'd say adult yarn, not baby yarn, but if you make it in just experiment with colours, because if you check out my rubies and my emeralds, that's the rubies is the square and the emeralds the hexagon, but you can see just how lovely it looks when you're using colours and a dark contrasting colour with it. So here we are at the corner, going to do my corner that we're all used to now. But if you do make it for a different reason, then obviously you just need to make sure that you're going to have enough yarn to get that done. So now the sides have grown and we've got 3 lots of 4 along the side. It grows fairly quickly in that respect. With a normal traditional granny square it would have grown just 1, but now as you can see we only had 1 in this round, but we've got 3 along here now. And so it does grow fairly fast. Last lot. I'm going to start working over my tail, going into that centre. See that centre piece of the corner? I don't like my corner chains being too big. But of course the ones along the side, when we're doing the white row, we do need to make them wide enough to fit. Did I not go over my yarn? No. Come back. There we are. Hold those up. Still probably need to secure them at the very ends, but I can work over a little to save me some time. And so I won't work over them anymore, sew them back on themselves. There we go, and see it's growing. I'll pull out some yarn. Just get to the end of this round and you'll completely know exactly what you're doing. So I will pause it then and meet up with you when it comes to the border, unless you want to make your own preferred border, which is fine. And now we're back at the corner again. So now the only places that you will have chain on this round is at the corners themselves. Okay, so now we're going back to ours 4s in the sides. That's one I didn't really work over, did I? Never mind. I can get it a little bit in a minute. There we go. So, last 4. If that doesn't look right, you can just undo that, sew that one in anyway. We all need a little, we have some that we have to sew in, but that one would look out of place, so I'm going to drop it and just do my last 4 without it. Just need to pull out a smidge of yarn and then slip stitch into the top of my chain. and end off this pink colour. If I can find my end. And there we are. That's what it looks like. So we'll just now carry on with a white row and then do the mint green, and then I will alternate those colours again. So the mauve, which is a little bit more of a mauve colour than it's looking on there, but it's a very sunny day, so I'm having some colour issues, but you can just about see the glitz then. That's quite sparkly. So yes, then the next colour will be, I'll do my white, then I'll do the green, and then I'll start again just with the mauve, the white, the blue, the white, the pink, the white, the green, the white, and just keep going and going until we reach the size of our blanket. And then for those of you who want to meet up with me at the end of this video, and I'll show you how I do my border, or you can put on whichever border that you wish. So just going to pause the video, and I'll catch up with you once your blanket is the size you want. Welcome back, and here I am. I've done all of my rows of my blanket that I wanted to, and I'm just going to sort out the border. Now I've finished on a white row because I thought that I might do a complete round in white of somehow. So I'm going to join at the corner and attach my yarn by going over my tail and my working yarn. So what I've decided I might do is a row of half treble crochets. So that's yarn over into the corner, yarn over and pull up a loop. Now I've got 4, but you would have 3 loops on the hook, and yarn over and go for all 3. So that'll show you again. That's yarn over into that stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all 3. So that's 3, apart from the first one, which was going over my, which had my working yarn and my tail. So I'm going to do 3 stitches in the corner. So this is a half treble in the UK, half double in the US. So I'm just going to do my third one. Now I'm going to carry on and just go into every one of these. I'm going to do 4. And so keep in line with my blanket as I've been making it. I'm not going to go into those ones along here, just going to go straight in and do 4 in all of the stitches along the side. So that's what it will look like. So I'm going to do that all the way around. When I get to the corner, I shall do 3, just as I did in my first corner to start with, and I'm working over my tail. It's a bit of a funny tail. Never mind. Just thought it'd be nice to have that end off with that part there, rather than just go into, I have to pull some yarn, do bear with me a second, rather than just go straight into the stitches. I thought it'd be nice to have the last little one of those, because it does kind of pull that up, and if you didn't have it, it would be flat on the top. If I go too fast for you, then obviously just pause the video, but I'm going to pause it soon anyway and meet you at the end. I'll just show you how to keep going. Whoops. It does help if you actually complete your stitch. The angle that I'm working at. So that's just 4 in each of our spaces all the way along. So I'm going to pause the video then, and I will see you when I get to my first corner. I've made it all the way along and I'm back at the corner again. So here we are, there's the space to go in. I'm going to just do 3 in the corner. And then once I've done my 3, I'm just going to go straight along this edge and go back to my 4. And there we are, made the corner. So I'm going to carry on now, go all the way around the other corners, and I will meet up with you when I get back to the start and show you what I'm going to do next. Okay, I'm more or less back. Just got my last, whoops, I've gone into the bottom stitch. Have to be really careful of that, they do stick up a little bit. Oops. Back to being in a funny angle. And my last one, I've gone into the wrong bit, no, just check it's all okay. So now I've made it all the way around, all I have to do is to slip stitch into the first stitch. And now I was going to do several rows, but I really like the way it looks because it kind of keeps into its groups of 4, and I think if I did another row then it's just going to band it, so I quite like it as it is. So I'm going to end there, but if you wanted to, if you didn't like just the short border, you could do a few more rows of this stitch just to make a nice wide border. And I might as well just put a picot edge on it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to end this tutorial here, and I'm going to use the swatch that I just made to practice the border and do a border tutorial. So I'm going to finish this one right now. So if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe to my channel, hit the notification bell, and you'll be informed when that new video is up. And if you could just like and share this video as well, I'd appreciate it. So thanks very much for watching. Until the next one, bye bye for now.